In this video, we are going to use matrices to solve a system of linear equations. So in our first step, we're going to take the system and we're going to put it into an augmented matrix. So on my top equation, I have a 5 in front of the x, -3 in front of the y, and my constant is a 1. On the second equation, I have a -5 in front of the x, a 3 in front of the y, and -2. And remember that your goal, what we're trying to get, is we're trying to get a 1 in the top left corner, and then we'll try to get a 0 below it, a 1 over here, and a 0 above it. And if we can do that, then our values for x and y will be sitting on the right-hand side. Okay, so step 1, I'm going to look in the top left corner because I need a 1, and remember that when you think of ones, think of the word reciprocal. It ends in an L, but the L looks like a 1. So ask yourself, what's the reciprocal of 5? And the reciprocal of 5 would be 1 over 5. You're going to multiply it directly to that row. So with ones, you go directly to the row. I think of it like a one shot, directly to the row, multiply, put your new numbers in a new matrix. So 1/5 times 5 would give me the 1 I needed. 1/5 times -3 would be a -3/5. And 1/5 times 1 would be a positive 1/5. Now row 2, I'm just going to simply bring down. It's not changing at this point, so put it into your new matrix. Okay, so step 2 of our goal says now we need a 0 down here where the -5 is. And remember, when we think of zeros, we think of the word opposite, and that O in opposite looks like a 0. So you'd ask yourself, what's the opposite of -5? And in this case, it's +5. You're going to multiply it by the top row and add it to the row you're changing. So 5 times the top row added to row 2, and then our new numbers will go in row 2. All right, so when I multiply 5 times 1, I get a 5. I'm going to put it down here, and I'll come back and add in a minute. 5 times -3/5 would be -15 over 5, which is just simply -3. And 5 times 1/5 would give us a 1. So now when we come into our new matrix, we're going to add those up. 5 plus -5 is 0. 3 plus -3 is also 0. And -2 plus 1 is -1. And then I'll recopy the top row the way it was. Now notice when you get ready to look at step 3, we have a problem. And the problem is that we've got a 0 where we're going to try to get a 1. And when we say what's the reciprocal of 0, there's no such thing. And so if you translate this bottom row into an equation, it says 0x plus 0y is equal to -1, or simply 0 equals -1. That is not true. That is a false statement. And anytime this happens when you're trying to solve a system, that is how you know the system has no solution. And so if we came back up here, then your answer choice would be to say the solution set is, and this is just a symbol that means the empty set, which means the same as no solution. Now let's look at another one. So again, if we put our numbers into an augmented matrix, on the top row I would have a 9, a -45, and then a 27. And the second row I would have a 5, a -25, and a 15. So again, remember our goal. We need to get a 1 in the top left, a 0 below it, a 1 down here, a 0 above it. And if that's possible, our solutions will be there on the right-hand side. So for step 1, I'm looking at the 9. And remember, when I want to turn something into a 1, I think of the word reciprocal. It ends in an L, and the L looks like a 1. So I would ask myself, what is the reciprocal of 9? And the answer to that question would be 1 over 9. So we're going to multiply 1 over 9 times row 1. And remember, it's just directly to the row. Think of it as a one shot. So 1 over 9 times 9 is 1. 1 over 9 times negative 45 would be negative 45 over 9, but that reduces to negative 5. And 1 over 9 times 27 would be 27 over 9, but that reduces to 3. All right, bring row 2 down. It's not changing at this point. And my second step is to get a 0 here, where the 5 is. So when we think of zeros, we think of the word opposite. The opposite of a 5 would be a negative 5. We're going to have to multiply the top row by negative 5 and then add it to the bottom row. And I always think about zeros like running in a circle. So you're going up here to multiply, you're coming back down here to add. So with zeros, it's always 2 steps. Okay, so when I take negative 5 times 1, I get negative 5, and I'll come back and add in a minute. Negative 5 times negative 5 is positive 25, and negative 5 times 3 would be negative 15. So now when I come back and add those up and put my new numbers in my new matrix, 5 plus negative 5 is 0. That's what I wanted. Negative 25 plus 25 is 0. That's not what I wanted. 15 plus negative 15 is also a 0. So once again, we see that something different has happened. And if you translate that bottom row, it translates into 0x plus 0y is equal to 0. Well, 0 equals 0 is true. So anytime this happens and you can't get your goal matrix, that's an indication that you actually have infinite solutions, or infinitely many solutions, as they say, because technically you had the same line to start with. You just didn't realize it. So in terms of your answer, you're choosing choice B. It's infinitely many solutions, and then what they say the solution set, that's just a way of saying it's any point on the line, and it doesn't matter which of these two equations they put as long as they give one of those two equations.